Well, there has been some important developments this week regarding the court system and coronavirus on both local and state levels. Here to tell us what you need to know is attorney Tom Sinas. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning, Sarah. Thank you so much for having me again.
Yeah, of course, we appreciate your time. So, Tom, what is the latest on how the courts are managing their dockets right now?
Well, I think the best way to describe it is that courts are trying to adapt like the rest of the world is trying to adapt. And what you see them trying to do, even over the course of the last week in particular, is to try to figure out what things can they continue to do and what things do they need to stop doing or suspend doing because of the coronavirus crisis. So perhaps the best example is what we saw happen this week regarding jury trials. Obviously, the idea of a jury trial, the mechanics of a jury trial, create a whole host of issues and questions when we're living in this world of social distancing. So on Thursday of this week, the Michigan Supreme Court, which usually has very little to say about jury trials because that's left to the trial courts, but the Michigan Supreme Court issued an order on Thursday saying that all jury trials around the state will be suspended until at least June 22nd. Up until that time, we had seen different courts issue different orders. And in fact, in Wayne County, for example, of course, where the coronavirus is so serious, the courts there have suspended jury trials all the way till August. So you see courts trying to figure out when is realistic for them to have jury trials. And right now, at least, we know that's not going to happen until at least the end of June, and it may be longer than that.
So interesting to see how everyone is adapting to this. I mean, what new rules have the courts adopted to accommodate coronavirus?
So while there's things like jury trials that are hard to imagine doing, there are other things that the courts are trying to continue to do. And this week we saw some further developments there. So one example has to do with fee waivers. So people who are of modest means, who are on public assistance or who are indigent, they can request a fee waiver for the various fees you have to pay when you're involved in litigation. And the Supreme Court this week said that those people must be able to request that fee waiver electronically. So that's one example. Another example is that the Supreme Court said that subpoenas, now people can be issued a subpoena, which means they may have to go give testimony. That testimony may not have to be in a courtroom, it could be in someone's office, but that's how it used to be done. But this week, the Supreme Court said that subpoenas now can be issued and compel people to appear remotely by telephone or video conference or things of that sort. We're also seeing the Supreme Court this week in its order say that they want the state court administrator's office, who oversees the courts, to consider what it would look like to have remote jury trials. Nothing more specific yet on that, maybe more to come in the future, but these are some of the ways that the courts are trying to figure out what can we continue to do and what do we need to stop doing.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be fascinating to watch that develop. Tom, if people want to know more about these topics and learn more from you, how can they get in contact with you best?
So they can find us online at www.sinusdramus.com. They can give us a call. All of our phones are forwarded. They can give us a call at 616-301-3333, or they can shoot us an email at info@sinusdramus.com.
All right, Tom, we appreciate your time. Really fascinating information this morning. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah.
Yeah, it is